This is Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, leader of the opposition, and the once clear favourite to succeed Justin Trudeau to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. For nearly 2 years, Poilievre looked unstoppable. Poll after poll showed his party leading by historic margins. Not only was it a question of if he would win, it was how big this victory is going to be. It was almost inevitable that he is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada once the election happens sometime this year. And still, it only took him 2 months to fumble it all. Pierre Poilievre isn't just slipping in the polls, he's crashing hard from a commanding 23-point lead over the Liberals at one point not too long ago to trailing them for the first time since 2022. And the numbers, surprisingly, they're still dropping. So how did things go so bad for Mr. Pierre Poilievre here? Let's talk about it. But before I go ahead with the video, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel as I cover Canadian politics and culture during a time when things are rapidly changing every day. So yeah, back to the video. Now, to understand the entire story, you kind of need to know more about how Pierre Poilievre got so popular in the first place. And for that, I need to take you back to 2023. Housing costs were off the roof, no pun intended. Job losses were prominent and affordability, especially in the big cities, was sky high. And who got the blame for all of this? Justin Trudeau, the then Prime Minister of Canada and the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. Now, in hindsight, there are a lot of reasons as to why Trudeau was so unpopular for so long. There were rising costs and inflation, as I mentioned earlier in the video, which caused as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, where the Canadian government gave various stimulus packages to people to cope during lockdowns, and there was a general slowdown of the economy at that time as well. And this isn't just a Canadian issue. Many countries in the world started struggling with rising unaffordability due to rising costs and stagnant wages, which kind of led to an anti-incumbency mentality for governments during and post-COVID. We saw Donald Trump lose his presidential election in 2020, and we all know how well he took it at that time. And we recently saw the Conservatives lose massively in the UK as well, after, 3-4 failed prime ministers in the UK, which kind of speaks for itself. And aside from just that, immigration was also a big issue of contention in Canada, where there was a big influx of immigrants that were let into Canada in a short period of time, which massively disrupted the housing market in major cities in Canada. A lot of these immigrants were also studying at paper mill colleges, and there was a big scandal there about that as well, where it was found that a lot of the immigrants who came on study permits were not even attending their colleges, and in fact a lot of the colleges did not even exist. It was so bad to a point that Trudeau himself had to concede that immigration as it is right now isn't working.
Today, we're announcing that we will reduce the number of immigrants we bring in over the next 3 years, which will result in a pause in the population growth over the next 2 years.
That brings me to Mr. Pierre Poilievre. Every chance he got, he would berate Justin Trudeau. He would talk about how he has ruined the country. Now you can imagine Justin Trudeau's popularity at that time started slipping, and it started slipping really quickly. And at the same time, because of all of the attention that Mr. Pierre Poilievre, the new leader of the Conservative Party, his popularity was rising as well. People liked the idea of his message being simple.
Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Those slogans really resonated with the average Canadian at that time, and it was evident with how Pierre Poilievre was doing in the polls. That is around the time when his popularity started rising a lot. I would say him being destined to be a next Prime Minister was kind of an understatement. People took it for granted that whenever there's a new election, he is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And that brings me to late 2024, when things go from bad to worse for the Liberal Party. If I remember correctly, the Liberals at that time were third, behind the Bloc Québécois, who only run candidates in Quebec, and that's how far back the Liberals were at that time. I remember thinking this as well. Pierre Poilievre at that time was constantly putting in motions of no confidence, and they kept getting shut down by the NDP, and he just wasn't backing down. And I was thinking at that time as well that, like, I know this is just for show, but just give it up, just wait for a bit, wait it out, and you'll be fine, right? Well, it was pretty evident that Justin Trudeau's time in government was numbered, and that eventually led to his resignation.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader.
Around this time as well, Donald Trump happened.
Why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country.
And throughout all of this, what did Pierre Poilievre do to maintain his lead as the front runner? He kept talking about axing the carbon tax.
We need to do away with Mr. Carney's carbon tax. This is another thing. Carney told CTV about 10 days ago he's going to bring in a new carbon tax on Canadian industry.
There was a certain point in time where the carbon tax was relevant. It's just not that relevant anymore. Why would you care about the carbon tax when the leader of the most powerful country in the world is talking about annexing you? And that, I feel, is Pierre Poilievre's biggest fumble, him continuously talking about the carbon tax and just not backing down. When Mark Carney became the new Prime Minister, the first thing he did was remove the carbon tax so that it isn't part of the conversation anymore. Pierre Poilievre had an opportunity to take the win and move on, talk about housing costs, talking about the tariff threat, talking about how he would deal with the tariffs and how he would deal with Donald Trump, but he didn't do any of that. Instead, he wanted to talk more about carbon tax. He started talking about how Mark Carney hasn't really removed the carbon tax and how he might bring it back. And now, at this point, he needs to realize that we don't care about the carbon tax anymore. It's removed, move on, you know? But he still kept talking about it, and now something spectacular has happened. Within the last 2 months, the Conservatives have gone from a near historic majority to now being behind the Liberals for the first time in a long time. Mark Carney, on the other hand, has contrasted to Pierre Poilievre, and he's only talking about policies. He's only talking about what he would do, how he would do it, and he's talking about how to build investments in Canada. He's talking about how we need the UK and Europe as allies in case the relationship with the US doesn't get fixed. And he's talking about things that we can take action on right now. And that is really resonating with Canadians as of now, and it has shown in the polls, with Mark Carney being officially more likely to be the next Prime Minister after the election than Pierre Poilievre, who's been leading and who had a more than 99% chance of winning the next election for much of last year. This last part is for Pierre Poilievre, who happens to represent the same riding where I live in Ottawa. So, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, just move on. It's kind of ridiculous that you're still talking about the carbon tax. No one cares anymore. Find better issues to talk about if you want to win the election. If you don't, then keep doubling down and talking about the carbon tax. People will, at the end, associate you with Donald Trump and with the far-right republicanism that exists, with the right-wing ideology that is synonymous to the Republicans in the US. And if you don't address the elephant in the room, which is Donald Trump, I don't see how you win this election. Now, as of me uploading this video, the election campaign period has officially started, and we have a month to find out how this campaign period goes. All campaign periods are always volatile. There's always things that happen, and I will make sure to keep you all updated on how this election goes, because I, for one, I'm really excited for how this election is going to go. Now that it's more of a toss-up than it ever was. The Liberals are ahead of the Conservatives right now, but not by much. And that is why I feel like this election is one to follow. And this is going to be a historical one. Anyways, this is it for my video here. If you like this video, please like it and please subscribe to the channel as well, so that I know that you're liking these kind of videos and I can keep making more of them. And yeah, I'll see you hopefully next week with another video, with another update.